Stocks trade in a range as uncertainty over a potential US-India mini trade deal continues. Consumption stocks and those of utilities manage some gains, while metals and realty are the big drags. Mutual fund net equity inflows in June sees a 24% jump with higher flows across large, mid and small cap funds. Gold ETF too see a surge with over 2,000 crore rupees flowing in compared to just under 300 crore in May. Maintenance shutdowns constrain output for Tata Steel and JSW Steel in the first quarter. Tata Steel sales also take a knock, though its Netherlands arm notches up some production gains. The stocks sulk. Heads of brokerages tell CNBC TV18 that the structural steps taken by SEBI to protect retail investors from sophisticated traders in the F&O space may be in the offing. Product suitability for retail may also get a look, they add, while owning up to their responsibility in guiding customers. Good afternoon, you're with us here on Business Lunch. We are coming to you live from the CNBC TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I am Hormuz Fatakia. Flat as flat can be as the markets are in between this sandwich session between the Sensex expiry yesterday and the Nifty expiry tomorrow. Still awaiting more contours of that potential mini trade deal between India and the US, and that is why the index continues to trade in this very narrow 70-point range in today's trading session. It'll be interesting to see how the last hour pans out, is because it was the last 1 hour which had led to that slight bit of recovery that the markets had seen in yesterday's trading session. But of course, there are plenty of movers in the broader markets, be it in the mid caps or across the small caps. Phoenix Mills is one of them, still trading around 4% lower after the initiation that came in from Nomura on the reduced recommendation. On the flip side, though, stocks that are doing well, Mankind Pharma, and a lot of these pharma names are doing fairly well for themselves. Mankind Pharma is one such stock. Laurus Labs is the other one. In fact, Laurus Labs is at a 52-week high in today's trading session and is also the top performer on the Nifty Pharma Index on a year-to-date basis. So pharma stocks holding up despite the 200% tariff threat from Donald Trump. Some of the other movers today include SML Isuzu, that's up 12%, and Force Motors continues to build on to those gains. We left off at around noon with the stock around 8% higher. Now the stock is around 11% higher as we speak. Getting you the latest now on the tariff front. Of course, that is the big trigger for the market going forward. President Donald Trump has said that there will be at least 7 trade announcements on Wednesday. That's later tonight in a post on Truth Social. While there has been no official word on the India-US deal just yet, maybe tonight we might just end up hearing something on that too. Trump has also reiterated that his 10% tariff threat for the BRICS nations still stands, claiming that the bloc was set up to hurt the United States.
They have to pay 10% if they're in BRICS, because BRICS was set up to hurt us. BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard. And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Is that immediate, sir, or is
Yeah,
that
pretty
if
soon.
they engage in some behavior?
Well, if they're a member of BRICS, they're going to have to pay 10% tariff, just for that one thing, and they won't be a member long. I thought BRICS was, I said this about a year ago, and it largely broke up. But, there are a couple that hang around, but I thought it largely broke up. BRICS is not, in my opinion, not a serious threat. But what they're trying to do is destroy the dollar so that another country can take over and be the standard. And we're not going to lose the standard.
Now, the US president also said that he's planning to impose a 50% duty on copper imports as part of a set of looming sectoral tariffs, while threatening a 200% levy on pharmaceuticals. Now, however, he said that the drug makers would be given about a year or a year and a half to get their act together.
Ones we did steel, as you know, they're 50%. We did aluminum, 50%. Lumber just came out.
Why don't you announce copper?
And we did cars. And now, today, we're doing copper.
Copper and lumber. What would that tariff be on? The sectional tariff?
I believe the tariff on copper, we're going to make it 50%.
50%.
And we'll be announcing something very soon on pharmaceuticals. We're going to give people about a year and a half to come in, and after that, they're going to be tariffed if they have to bring the pharmaceuticals into the country, the drugs and other things into the country. They're going to be tariffed at a very, very high rate, like 200%. we'll give them a certain period of time to get their act together. But they were all here. Now they all left. They went to other places because we allowed people that sat in this room allowed it to happen. And I don't allow it to happen. The people in this room don't allow it to happen.
Now let's also listen in to what Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick had to say on the president's latest moves.
Copper is finished. We've done with our study. We've handed the study over to the president. The president knows that he has the ability, since we've studied the market of copper, to set the market tariff for copper. He announced it today at the cabinet meeting that he intends to go to 50%, which will be similar to steel and aluminum, which are both 50%, so copper will be 50%. And the idea is to bring copper home, bring copper production home, bring the ability to make copper, which is key to the industrial sector, back home to America. We need that kind of production in America. It's important, so that'll be out today. With pharmaceuticals and semiconductors, those studies are being completed at the end of the month, and so the president will then set his policies then.
Now, earlier in the day, we also spoke to Arvind Sanger, the managing partner at Geosphere Capital Management, on the tariff impact on the pharma sector. Listen to what he had to say.
I think the overhang of the uncertainty is still there. So, I think some of the more extreme measures, as we've seen before, are unlikely to come to pass. So I think, it's going to be a mixed bag. I'm certainly not rushing out to buy pharma names on this news. The tariff news from a day ago didn't cause a huge, disruption in those markets. So my sense is, at this point, tariffs are kind of part of the fabric of the noise in the market, and they will affect some short-term moves.
Now, my colleague Shireen Bhan also caught up with Chuck Robbins, the chairperson and CEO of Cisco, who only sees a limited impact of tariffs on their global business so far.
Well, this is the issue in the business community right now is the uncertainty just freezes everyone. Because if and when we get to the end game, then we can adapt appropriately. And so if you look at the tariffs that were put in 2018, I think it was, we knew what they were put in, and we were able to kind of flex our dynamic supply chain in order to adapt to those things. And we'll do the same to the extent we can once we see what the end game looks like. But right now it's a little more complicated, looking at a multi-quarter P&L for the business because you just don't know which tariffs you have to consider. So what we've effectively decided to do is we're just going to look at our numbers based on what's in effect today. And then, we can do all sorts of speculating and scenario planning, but tomorrow they could be useless. Well, for us, it's not meaningful yet because a lot of the products that we sell are under the 232 investigation that is happening now, the national security view on some of the technology stuff. So as of now, we don't have meaningful impact, which again is the reason we're anxious to get to the end so we know exactly what we're dealing with.
Take a short break here, but just as we do that, a programming note. Remember to tune in to the all-new CNBC TV 18 Prime, bringing you insights from policymakers, business leaders and economists shaping both the world and India's future. CNBC TV 18 Prime decodes global shifts and their impact on Indian businesses, giving you unparalleled insights. Tune in to CNBC TV 18 Prime at noon for the Global Reset, 1 p.m. for the Big C, and the Global Lens at 8:30 this evening. Now, the Sun TV family feud has ended, and that is a Money Control exclusive. Chandra R. Srikanth of Money Control joins us with more details on this. Chandra.
Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has played a pivotal role in bringing about a settlement between the Maran brothers. Sun TV Chairman Kalanidhi Maran and his brother Dayanidhi Maran, former Union Minister and DMK parliamentarian. Now, a meeting was held in the presence of Stalin, who is a cousin of the Maran brothers, his son, Deputy Chief Minister Udayanithi Stalin, as well as the Maran brothers and their sister Anbukarsi, where they decided to hammer out terms of a settlement. It is not clear yet what the terms of this settlement are. If this is going to be a cash compensation for Dayanidhi Maran, or if he and his children will also get some of the media assets that are currently controlled by Kalanidhi Maran. Now remember, this truce comes weeks after Dayanidhi Maran shot off a legal notice to Kalanidhi Maran, making some very serious allegations from fraud to money laundering to cheating. He also threatened to enforce civil, criminal enforcement and regulatory proceedings against his older brother unless the shareholding of Sun TV was restored to the 2003 state. Now, we don't know what will happen to those charges, but clearly this is not going to be a publicly fought out battle. The brothers have settled thanks to the intervention of DMK leader and TNCM MK Stalin.
Chandra, thank you for that update. But the big data point came out earlier in the day. That was the mutual fund data for the month of June. That was released a short while ago. Surabhi is here with the analysis. Well, inflows are still better on a month-on-month basis, isn't it, Surabhi?
Well, the monsoons have brought in fresh hope, shall we say, because the numbers for June are looking much better than May. In fact, if I talk about the net equity inflows from falling to sub 19,000, the numbers have now improved to about 23,500. So that's a pickup of almost 24%. That's headline number one. The improvement in equity flows is being led by SMIDs, as they're called. Again, small and mid-cap funds. That's where the action is. Mid-cap fund flows are up almost 33%. The small cap funds have also done very well. The flows are up 25% month on month, and they've crossed the 4,000 mark all over again. Large cap funds, about 1,700 crores coming in. Still not the top preference, it seems, when it comes to equity funds for mutual fund investors. But something that's very, very interesting is that hybrid funds now are getting almost as much money as equity funds. And this has happened in the second month in a row. Look at the hybrid funds. I mean, we're talking about 23,000, a little over 23,000 for hybrid funds and 23,500 crores for equity funds. What does that tell us? One, investors seem to be understanding the message of diversification, and perhaps they're getting smarter because many of the hybrid funds have very tax-efficient structures as well. So the category is definitely gaining popularity. Let me talk about thematic funds. Thematic funds have been, bringing in dwindling sums because the NFOs are lesser. This month, we've got under 500 crores, just that much amount coming in from thematics, bringing me to the NFO picture. NFOs have pulled in less than 2,000 crores this time around. And this is that one engine for the MF industry that's not quite firing as much. Some prudence coming in, maybe the market sentiment that's been weighing on the NFO party. Finally, the big silver lining, as always, is SIPs, rock solid as ever. In fact, the monthly SIP numbers have now crossed the 27,000 mark. In fact, the total inflows for the month of June are 27,269. So overall, looking good, stabilizing, equity flows picking up, and hybrids making a big mark as well.
Monsoons go on for a while. The hope should also go on for a while. Surabhi, thank you for that update there on the AMFI data reported just a few minutes earlier. A number of stocks are also buzzing on the back of news flow. Ria is here with more on this. Ria, tell us which are the stocks on your list?
Well, yes, Hormuz, a lot of stocks buzzing in trade today. First up is Phoenix Mills, trading 4% lower after Nomura initiated coverage on the stock with a reduced rating and a target price of rupees 1,400 per share. They say that the retail consumption CAGR is expected at just 9% and 11% by FY27 and FY30 versus the 40% CAGR growth that we've seen over the last 3 years. On the flip side, Sirma SGS is trading 4% higher after JP Morgan initiated coverage with an overweight rating and a target price of rupees 800. They're expecting to see a growth acceleration going forward for the stock as well as margin expansion. Coming to 5paisa Capital, they reported their Q1 FY26 numbers yesterday. The stock is still down about 2% even after recovering off the day's low. In terms of the numbers, the net profit has gone down by around 42% and even the revenue has gone down by 24% compared to the previous year. For JSW Steel, they've come out with their Q1 business update. Crude steel production has gone up by around 14% and even the India operations are up around 15% 15% compared to the previous year. For Tata Steel, for Q1, the India production volumes have come in largely flat at 5.26 metric tons, and the India delivery volumes are down about 3.8% on a year-on-year basis. For Union Bank of India, they also came out with their Q1 business updates. They've seen poor loan growth of just about 6.8% on a year-on-year basis, and the stock is also 4% lower on the back of this. Coming to CAMS, this one has been in focus after the company has launched the CAMS Pays, which is the new payment gateway that supports over 5,000 transactions per second. Bajaj Projects is another one that has been in focus. The stock has been trading at an upper circuit of 5% after the company has said that they're going to increase the galvanization capacity up to 1.1 lakh MTPA from the current 40,500 odd MTPA, and they're also planning a capacity expansion of about 170 crores at the Ranjangaon facility. Dixon Tech has been in focus after investing 2.5 crores for a 50% stake in Litanium Technologies. And the last one that we've been keeping on our radar today is India Shelter FinCorp, after Kotak Mahindra Mutual Fund has bought 4.2% equity in the company for an amount of 385 crores, and Nexus Ventures Partners has offloaded around 4.6% equity in the company.
Long list. Ria, thank you for that update. And just as Ria was describing her stocks that are on her radar, the business update from Prestige Estates was flashing at the bottom of your screen for the June quarter. It's a strong start to FY26 is what they mentioned. Sales are up 300% from last year. That's almost a 4x jump. The collections too are the highest in a quarter till date for the company, which is a 55% increase on a year-on-year basis. Average realizations too have now increased to almost 13,339 rupees. Here's some news also from the aviation space, then India's airline regulator. Just before we get to that, focusing on CNBC TV 18 exclusive, since we are on the subject of stocks, the GAIL pipeline tariff may see an increase of nearly 20%. Sudarshan is here with more details on this. Sudarshan.
So while the stock of GAIL is under pressure, it's currently at day's low down more than 3%, but there is a positive news on the tariff for the GAIL pipeline. So sources indicate that in the upcoming board meet of PNGRB, that is the oil and gas regulator, it might approve an increase up to 20% for the GAIL pipeline tariff. And currently tariff is around rupees 58.59. It can be increased to rupees 70 or more than that. So if you remember, GAIL had submitted its view on tariff, and earlier it had told that its submission had included of rupees 78, around rupees 78. But earlier talking to CNBC TV, it had told that if PNGRB approves in the range of rupees 70 to 71, it will be taken positively. Also, brokerage views, if you talk about, Investec is saying that it's hoping for a 20% increase, but as far as its estimates are concerned, that's factoring in 10% increase. Also, Jefferies is saying that if there is an increase of 10%, fair value of GAIL comes around rupees 235 per share, and if there is an increase of 20%, fair value comes around rupees 250 per share. So if in reality PNGRB board goes ahead and increases tariff up to 20% for GAIL pipelines, it would be taken positively.
Interesting. Point of the day, 3.5% lower on GAIL as we speak. Now, here's some news from the aviation space. Then India's airline regulator, the DGCA, has informed the parliamentary panel that it is working on a mechanism to curb increase in airfares during times of high demand. Now, the DGCA has suggested that airlines can fix a price ceiling on certain routes during periods like festivals. Let's take a short break here, but just as we do that, here's some good news for our viewers. India's business news leader is now just a click away, and that is the CNBC TV 18 all-new app, where you can get breaking news, in-depth articles, and financial world updates right at your fingertips. You can download the app from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, or even scan the QR code that comes up on your screen to download the app. Take a short break. We'll be back with more on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, in some tragic news, at least 9 people have lost their lives after a section of the Gambhira bridge connecting Vadodara and Anand collapsed in the Vadodara district of Gujarat. Preliminary information indicates that at least 5 vehicles had fallen into the river after the collapse of the bridge. Rescue efforts are currently ongoing, aided by the fire department and local residents. Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel has ordered a technical probe into the collapse. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi condoled the deaths and announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees to the kin of the deceased. With that, we call time on this edition of Business Lunch. From me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Midcap Radar on the other side.